and Random House presents In Service of the Republic, The Art and Science of Economic Policy by Vijay Kelkar and Ajay Shah, read by Bhuvana, Anand. Preface. India has come into middle income with a $3 trillion economy. We got a great surge of growth from 1991 to 2011, drawing on a new intellectual framework of policy that was put into place from 1977 onward. For the first time in India's history, in these two remarkable decades, there was a substantial decline in the number and share of those in poverty. The period after 2011 has seen a retreat from the optimism of the two remarkable decades. Growth in exports has stalled, private investment has declined, and the number of persons working has grown poorly. Present economic and demographic trends suggest that we will get old before we get rich. We need to change course to obtain the sustained economic growth through which we will utilize our workforce and get to the edges of the advanced economies in 30 years. We must do this in order to transform the lives of hundreds of millions of people and to meet our tryst with destiny. We must do this to avoid the social stress that goes with a large mass of people not working. The great question of the age is, why did the reforms process from 1977 onwards deliver success in 1991 to 2011, but faltered thereafter? In this book, we try to tell a story about why we underperformed and how to get back on the growth turnpike. Intensification of the 1977 to 2011 strategies will not suffice. What is required is rethinking the foundations. While we have rapidly created a $3 trillion economy, we have been slow to build the institutional frameworks for a dynamic middle-income emerging economy. Modernization of the political system and of the economy are taking place at the same time and feeding into each other. Establishing the foundations of liberal democracy, that is, building the republic, is integral to solving the economic malaise. The pursuit of economic growth requires new respect for the principles of debate, dispersion of power, the rule of law, and the curtailing of executive discretion. The trade-offs and compromises inherent in democratic politics determine the policy choices in the real world. Our thinking draws as much on the timeless themes of building the republic as it does on public economics. Economic policy lies within the subject of political economy, the dark crossroads where economics and politics meet. Both disciplines have a core of scientific thinking, the areas where the analytical foundations and the empirical evidence are strong. And then, beyond that, there is a large class of questions where the picture is less clear, where intuition, inspiration, and the wisdom of experience must be brought to bear on questions. This is the art of public policy. In this book, we take on the left brain and the right brain aspects. We care about the ideas and we care about translating them into action. Some parts of the book are more analytical and conceptual, while other parts of the book are more practical and link directly to action. When the rubber hits the road, there are tangible policy questions in each area, such as oil exploration or inflation targeting. There are many fascinating areas of work in progress all across the Indian landscape where there is the slow boring of hard boards of policy reform, with passionate sectoral experts grappling with state failure that permeates the Indian policy landscape. While we draw on 79 examples from many sectors, this is not a handbook of policy papers. We offer general insights that are valuable across diverse fields. We live in an age of social media. The degradation of the norms of discourse and the noise in the policy discourse has harmed the ability of liberal democracies to find politically stable compromises. In this book, we help to recover common ground, to find a shared intellectual framework and vocabulary that a lot of us may be able to agree upon. We have, therefore, stuck to what we hope is relatively non-controversial terrain. This has involved downplaying the issues of ethical preferences and income redistribution. Together, the authors have 65 years in the field and have been talking about these grand questions for the last 20 years. The genesis of this book lies in Shekhar Shah's invitation to Vijay Kelkar to deliver the C.D. Deshmukh Memorial Lecture at National Council of Applied Economic Research, NCAER, on 27 January 2017. The enthusiastic feedback from that lecture led to the idea that an extended version of this would be an interesting book. The enthusiastic feedback from the first edition of November 2019 propelled us into writing this revised and expanded edition, the publication of which coincides with the 75th anniversary of India's independence. Part 1. Foundations. Chapter 1. The Purpose of Government. Everyone has felt the irritation of having multiple chargers for different devices. There is a chaos of chargers with USB-B, USB-C, Apple Lightning, all of which are incompatible with each other. This adds expense, inconvenience, clutter, and electronic waste. To engineers, standards wars are inefficient. To consumers, a plethora of standards can appear irritating and confusing. A single standard would allow device makers to focus on making devices while other companies focus on producing universal chargers. To many people, this will result in lower prices, more convenience, and less waste. An exasperated person may say, "Can't we have a government that standardizes this?" It seems easy to think about finding a great leader who will choose the one correct technical standard, and then the government forces everyone to fall into line. While this may be plausible at first blush, when we go deeper into the problem, there are all kinds of difficulties. Human society is not amenable to engineering intuition. This, in turn, brings us to the twin questions of what a government can do versus what a government should do. Could a government add value by coercing all electronics companies to make only one kind of charger? At first blush, this may seem like an appealing idea. This is the sort of thing a muscular Indian government might come up with. A law that forces all technology companies to sell only consumer products in India that use, for example, the USB-C charger. This is something the European Union is doing. If we had to have a government choose the one charger to rule them all, let's think about how the standard will be established. Who will choose? How would we be sure that these persons would think in terms of the best interests of society and possess the requisite intellectual capacity? How do we know that the right decision will be made, despite intense lobbying by all technology companies? What if there are certain devices made in Taiwan, which are extremely capable and cost-effective, but use a prohibited charger? Will we ban Indian consumers from using them? Suppose the USB-C charger is made a standard via government imposition. What if there are small devices such as wristwatches where the USB-C charger is too bulky? How will charger standardization be enforced? Who will watch out for violations? Will we have customs officials keeping an eye on goods shipments to prevent equipment from coming in? Will we have police raid factories looking for violators who produce equipment with the wrong charger? What about individuals who travel abroad and are carrying their own personal equipment which they promise will not be used in India? What penalties will we impose in all these cases? Will a black market develop for chargers that violate the rule? Will we enforce against it? Or is this all too difficult and we turn to taxation and subsidies? Perhaps we can tax equipment which has the wrong charger and subsidize equipment that has the right charger.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?